everyone, my name is Haley Gardner and I am a Clinician 1 over at Nexus Youth and Family Services. I am here today to present to you our wellness workshop, Healthy Relationships and Communication, Building Connection, Respect, and Emotional Safety. So today we're going to be talking about something that quietly shapes almost every part of our lives, our relationships, and the way we communicate in them. So relationships affect how we feel about ourselves, how we handle stress, and even how safe we feel emotionally. So whether it's friendships, family relationships, romantic relationships, or even coworker relationships, the quality of our connections play a huge role in our well-being. So when communication feels supportive and respectful, relationships tend to feel steady and safe. But when communication breaks down, even the smallest misunderstandings can turn into hurt feelings, tension, or distance. But the encouraging part is that healthy communication is not something people are simply born with. It's a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned, practiced, and improved. Today, we'll look at some simple practical tools that help build stronger connections, make conversations feel safer, and reduce unnecessary conflict. So, why do healthy relationships matter? Healthy relationships can reduce stress and improve well-being, build trust, respect, and emotional safety, strengthen communication and connection. Healthy relationships shape our emotional health, our confidence, and our ability to manage stress. Feeling connected to others is one of the strongest foundations for well-being. What this really means is that relationships affect how we experience everyday life. When a relationship feels safe and supportive, challenges feel more manageable. So try to think about a time when someone truly listened to you during a stressful moment. That experience likely made the situation feel less overwhelming. Healthy relationships reduce stress because they provide reassurance and understanding. They build trust by creating predictability, knowing somebody will respond with care. They strengthen emotional safety by allowing people to express thoughts without fear. For example, being able to say, "Hey, I'm having a really hard day," without worrying about judgment is a sign of emotional safety. So when relationships are healthy, they don't remove problems, but they help people face their problems with support. So what makes a relationship healthy? A healthy relationship includes mutual respect, trust and honesty, support and encouragement, and healthy communication. Mutual respect means recognizing each other's perspectives even during disagreement. Trust and honesty allow people to feel secure and open. Support and encouragement show up in everyday moments, not just big ones. Healthy communication makes it possible to discuss concerns before resentment builds. For example, encouragement during stress, patience during misunderstandings, listening during frustration. These qualities don't eliminate the conflict, but they definitely will help make it more manageable. Okay, so now we're going to touch on those healthy communication skills. Healthy communication includes listening with attention, expressing feelings clearly, respecting boundaries, and repairing after conflict. Communication is how relationships stay strong and united during challenges. Listening helps people feel valued. Expressing feelings clearly will prevent assumptions. Respecting boundaries maintains balance. And repairing after conflict restores connection. For example, saying, "I need some time," is a lot clearer than shutting down and walking away without an explanation. So overall, healthy communication doesn't avoid problems, it helps solve them. So now we're going to take just a few minutes to go a little bit deeper into each one of those communication skills. So active listening means being fully present, reflecting and validating, and asking instead of assuming. So active listening involves focusing on understanding the other person. So being present means you might be putting away distractions like your cell phone. Reflecting may sound like saying something along the lines of, "That sounds really frustrating." And then asking instead of assuming prevents misunderstandings. For example, if someone was sharing a story with you and you're thinking, you're fine, don't say that. Maybe ask instead, how did that affect you? Because feeling heard will help build trust within your relationship. So now we're going to teach you how to communicate without blame. So this is another very important skill to know. It's using I statements. So this is how we can express feelings and needs without criticism. They reduce defensiveness and support respectful conversations. So you're going to start with a feeling and then describe the situation, explain why it matters, and share a need or a request. So say you have a friend who's always changing plans at the last second on you, and this upsets you. And so you're trying to express that to them. You may say, I feel overwhelmed when plans change suddenly because it's hard for me to adjust. I just need a little bit more notice next time. And by doing it this way, you can kind of see how this keeps the focus on the personal experience instead of creating an attack on the other person. It reduces defensiveness and makes productive conversation much more likely. So, reflecting before reacting. Instead of reacting immediately, this slide is really about the space between a feeling and a response. Most conflict doesn't start because people want to hurt each other. It starts because emotions are moving faster than words. When someone feels ignored, frustrated, embarrassed, or overwhelmed, the first instinct is often just to react. But that reaction might sound like snapping back, shutting down, raising your voice, etc. So reflecting before reacting creates a pause in that moment. And that pause can change the entire direction of the conversation. For example, instead of immediately saying something hurtful out of frustration, someone might notice, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. That awareness allows the person to respond instead of react. Responding might look like, I need a minute to think before we continue. And that small moment of reflection can prevent escalation and protect the relationship from unnecessary harm. This doesn't mean you're ignoring your feelings. It means you're acknowledging them in a way that supports communication rather than conflict. You want to stop and think, what am I feeling right now? What do I need in this moment? And how can I express that respectfully? So the next skill we're going to touch on is respecting boundaries. When we hear the word boundaries, it can sometimes sound like distance or rejection, but boundaries are actually what makes relationships feel safe and sustainable over time. Without boundaries, people may start to feel overwhelmed, taken for granted, or resentful, even if they care about each other. For example, imagine someone who feels pressured to always say yes. At first, it might seem kind or accommodating, but over time it can create exhaustion or frustration. Healthy boundaries allow someone to say, I need some time to recharge, without damaging the relationship. They protect emotional energy while still maintaining connection. In strong relationships, boundaries are not seen as barriers, they're seen as communication. They help both people understand limits and respect each other's needs. When boundaries are respected, trust grows because people feel safe expressing what they need. So you need to communicate your needs clearly. You need to respect another person's no without pressure. And you need to balance closeness and independence. So now we've made it to repairing after conflict. Every relationship experiences disagreements. The strength of a relationship is not defined by the absence of conflict, but by what happens after the conflict. Repairing afterwards is what prevents misunderstandings from turning into lasting resentment. For example, Imagine an argument where someone raises their voice. The conflict itself might be uncomfortable, but what truly affects the relationship is whether repair happens. Repair might sound like, "I'm sorry for how I spoke earlier," and that acknowledgement shows accountability and signals care for the relationship. It shifts the focus from being right to reconnecting. Without repair, small disagreements can accumulate and create emotional distance. But with repair, those same disagreements can actually strengthen understanding. Repair shows that the relationship matters more than winning the argument. So some tools to kind of implement this skill is to pause and cool down. Take a moment to breathe before continuing the conversation. And then take responsibility. Acknowledge your part and offer them a sincere apology. Listen and validate. Focus on understanding the other person's feelings, not on proving a point. And then rebuild and move on. You can kind of talk about it and you'll come out the other side stronger for it. So now that you've learned all of the skills to keep your relationship strong and healthy, I wanted to share some words that can hurt versus words that can help you in these hard conversations. Communication is not only about what is being said, it is about how it is said. Tone and wording can either increase tension or create understanding. For example, blaming language like "you never listen" can make someone feel attacked, whereas language that expresses personal experience like "I feel unheard" invites conversation rather than defensiveness. Words that hurt often focus on accusation. Words that help focus on understanding. This difference may seem small, but it has such a big impact. Over time, supportive communication builds trust, while blaming communication can create distance. Shifting even one phrase can change the tone of an interaction. So instead of "you never listen," you can say "I'm feeling unheard." Instead of "you're overreacting," you can say "can we just slow down?" Instead of saying "whatever" and turning your back, say "please help me understand." And instead of blaming and saying "this is your fault," you can say "let's figure this out together." So now I just have some resources to share with you guys if you'd like to learn more about the topics we've touched on today. These resources provide different kinds of support for developing healthier communication and stronger relationships. We have the Gottman Institute, which is well known for its work on understanding how relationships function over time. Their materials focus on practical strategies for improving communication, managing conflict, and building trust in everyday interactions. Then we have the American Psychological Association, who offers a wide range of educational articles that help people better understand emotional well-being and interpersonal communication. Their content connects psychological insight to real-life relationship experiences. And then we have Love is Respect, who provides accessible information about boundaries, mutual respect, and recognizing healthy versus unhealthy relationship patterns. Their materials are especially helpful for young people, but apply broadly to anyone wanting to strengthen relational awareness. And then lastly, we have the CDC's Healthy Relationships resources, which focus on emotional safety and supportive connection. They highlight how positive relationship behaviors contribute to overall well-being. Now, before we wrap up for today, I'd really appreciate it if you guys could take a moment to complete the surveys below. Your feedback is really important to us and helps us continue to produce videos like this and other resources for the community. So yeah, if you could just take a couple minutes to take that demographic survey as well as the well-being survey, we'd greatly appreciate it. So remember, healthy relationships grow through intentional communication, listening, expressing needs respectfully, respecting boundaries, and repairing after conflict all contribute to connection. These are skills anyone can learn and strengthen over time. Small changes in communication can have meaningful effects. Don't forget it, and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you all so much for joining us today.